Hello to all of you at the Medical Students Forum. I'm Isabelle Bégin, and this is my talk for you on abortion, morbidity, and mortality statistics. So, the World Health Organization, the WHO or WHO, regulates morbidity and mortality statistics through its International Statistical Classification of Diseases and Related Health Problems, more commonly referred to as the ICD Manual. It's about a 1,000-page brick that is akin to legalese for the type of read that you might want to expect with that. The most recent edition of the ICD manual is the 10th edition, commonly referred to as ICD-10, and it came out in 2001. So, abortion morbidity and mortality statistics are coded in the following way. It's in Chapter 11, and it's complications of pregnancy, childbirth, and the puerperium, or the period after delivery. And you have 5 subcategories. So you have subcategory 1, which is ectopic and molar pregnancy and other pregnancy with abortive outcome. So you have the codes 630 to 639, all kinds of things that you might want to read in the written form of this conference. And you get to 635, which is legally induced abortion. So legally meaning less than 22 completed weeks of gestation. You have illegally induced abortion at 636, and you have unspecified abortion at 637. You have failed attempted abortion at 638, and you have complications following abortion and ectopic and molar pregnancies all rolled into one at 639. So they include in there complications of legally induced abortion as the reason for the admission. For all the other categories, for 635, the reason for admission was not a complication of abortion. It was for the abortion, but the abortion was complicated with immediate complications. So 639 is a totally different hospitalization due to a complication of abortion. Now, subcategory 2, you have complications mainly related to pregnancy, so you have codes 640 to 648. All of these you can read in your spare time. Subcategory 3, normal delivery and other indications for care in pregnancy and delivery, so those are codes 650 to 659, all kinds of diagnosis codes, and they're also used as codes for cause of death coding as well, so both for morbidity and mortality statistics. Subcategory 4, you have complications occurring mainly in the course of labor and delivery, so codes 660 to 669. And subcategory 5, complications of the puerperium, so codes 670 to 676. So, the definitions of the classifications, they change regularly. ICD-9 came out in 1975. ICD-10 came out in 2001. So you see there are 25 or more years between each edition. So in between each, they do come out, the World Health Organization comes out with redefinitions of classifications. So they use medical, time-related, and geographical criteria, and they change them. So what happens is the statistical numbers are automatically altered with trends being invented that may have nothing to do with objective observable phenomena. It's just a simple redefinition of a classification of a code, and there you go. You might be able to conclude from that abortion has risen in such and such a country for such a period of time, where it was a simple redefinition of a classification that happened that made it look like a trend. So, is this a deliberate attempt to force numbers to support a specific agenda, or an unfortunate consequence of necessary classification changes? To each his own conclusion. Now, the codes in further detail, the 3-digit codes that we just saw are followed by either 1 or 2 decimal extensions. The first decimal extension is called the 4th digit of the number, and the second decimal extension is called the 5th digit. The 4th digit means complicated by, and then you can have 0.0, that would be the first digit 0, or 4th digit of the number, complicated by a genital tract and pelvic infection, or 0.1 by delayed or excessive hemorrhage, 0.2 by damage to pelvic organs and tissues, 0.3 by renal failure, 0.4 by metabolic disorder of some kind, 0.5 shock, 0.6 complicated by an embolism, 0.7 complicated by other specified complications, 0.8 complicated by unspecified complications, or 0.9 without mention of a complication. So they say in the ICD manual that the code 634 to 637 also require fifth digits to identify whether the abortion was complete or incomplete. So if you have, let's say, 0.2 was complicated by damage to pelvic organs and tissues, and then following the 2 there's a 9, well, that means that it was not specified whether it was a complete or incomplete abortion. If it's 0.5 complicated by shock followed by a 1, that means it was specified that it's incomplete. Or let's say 6 complicated by an embolism and followed by a 2, which means that the abortion was complete. Then let me just go through a bit what statistics look like in Canada. The Canadian Institute for Health Information, CIHI, has been mandated by the Statistics Canada Health Statistics Division to collect health and more specifically abortion statistics starting with the 1994-1995 data year, which has just come out this year in 2008, publishing-wise. A therapeutic abortion database is aiming to totally replace the manual paper collection of data that was previously forwarded to the various provincial health ministries. CIHI has an obstetric coding guide for ICD-10. Their electronic database is called the Discharge Abstract Database, the DAD, and it's used in hospitals. Since 2001, that database can be cross-referenced with a procedure code taken from the Canadian Classification of Interventions, CCI manual. That's very new. And CIHI estimates that the Therapeutic Abortion Survey, or TAS, database represents approximately 90% of all abortions performed in Canada involving Canadian residents. The survey is not treated as mandatory. It could or should be, as the law requires, but it is not applied. So it is not obligatory for anybody in Canada to respond to the survey. Since 1988, clinics increasingly report aggregate counts only instead of detailed records with gestational age, the age of the woman, the complications, the method of abortion used, etc. So instead of reporting aggregate counts, there's detailed records falling now from 61% of total reported abortions in 1998 to 43% of total reported abortions in 2005. As we know, 1988 was the year that the Supreme Court had the Morgentaler decision where abortion was decriminalized de facto because the Canadian government was not able to successfully adopt a new abortion law as recommended by the Supreme Court of Canada. Concurrently, the proportion of clinic abortions is rising. So they were represented 33% of total abortions in 1996, and in 2005 they were up to 48%. Almost half of all abortions now in Canada are performed in clinics. Also, since 1999, only Alberta clinics offer detailed records. Statistics Canada used to publish an annual report entitled Hospital Morbidity. Since the 1994-1995 data year, CIHI publishes custom tabulations based on this survey with a minimum charge of $250. I personally have spent a couple of $1,000s on these custom tabulations since the year 2000, and it's very difficult to wade through this information. So you can also see Statistics Canada health reports, which are still published quarterly. They have not stopped. But hospital morbidity now, you have to pay for it to get that information.